we have joined.
Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in just a couple moments. Thank you all for being here. Welcome, everyone, to Notable's webinar series, Driving the Data-Driven Enterprise. In this episode, we have three talented guests joining us to share their experiences, insights, and tips on today's topic, data and the customer journey. I'm very excited to hear which data gems that they have uncovered in their work, so let's move right into introductions. Hi, I'm Carol Willing. I'm a longtime leader in the Jupyter and Python communities, and I'm also the VP of Engineering at Notable. And co-hosting this series with me is data enthusiast Dave. Dave, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Dave Stewart. I'm Director of Product here at Notable. And prior to this, I'd spent most of my career at the National Security Agency, where I helped develop and evangelize the use of notebooks across the U.S. intelligence community. And now we'll go over to our guests here. We'll start with Barbara. Can you do a quick introduction on your half?
Sure. My name is Barbara Casey, and I am CEO of Mobile High Five. We are customer engagement specialists, and we work specifically in the mobile channel, SMS text marketing specifically. And we not only provide the platform, but we also provide the full service ongoing management. So we're a little bit unique in the marketplace.
Nice. And
Very
Kristopher.
cool.
All right, I think I'm next. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Lazaretti. I am head of Deluxe data-driven marketing in the Deluxe data business. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I came to Deluxe via the acquisition of a marketing agency I founded or co-founded. And today we are the largest provider of direct response marketing in the financial services industry, and we serve multiple large enterprise brands beyond.
I think I'm next. Hey, everybody, my name is Dmitrii, Kustov. Who I am a huge data nerd. What do we do? That's, well, actually, I'm applying my huge data nerdness to the world of online marketing, specifically SEO. So I am the founder of a company called Regex SEO. We are doing SEO and other types of digital marketing for mainly home services industry.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for joining us. And so let's get right into the topic at hand here, which is data and the customer journey. As we know, there are opportunities of data throughout the marketing funnel from awareness to advocacy. So let's jump right into how to do it. So let's start with demystifying data and data literacy in the customer journey. And so where should people start? With tools, with research, buy-in, or a journey map? Dmitrii, let's have that first question go to you, if you don't mind.
All right. Well, from perspective of SEO and kind of online marketing, the thing that I want to kind of say here is the step one in demystifying data is that you have to have data, and unfortunately data analytics is not very commonly used in companies of all sizes, especially when we get to the marketing purpose of that data. So in terms of demystification is, so there are things like user profiling. Whenever you collect as much data about who gets to your website and how they interact with your website, or for example, like even doing keyword research and proper keyword research before doing any SEO, or using user experience analysis from heat maps, session recordings, and other tools available to more or less everybody at a not that high of a price. So really my point there is that in order to demystify and understand the data in general, you have to have it in the first place. And then after that, I would just suggest that you have some kind of a data nerd on the team that loves looking at the data on a daily basis and making decisions based on data. What we say here, and it's I forgot who actually said that quote, but the quote is, "In God we trust, all others bring data." So that's the slogan I live by. So yeah, there you go. That would be my quick tip, even how to start.
Very interesting, Dmitrii. Barbara, do you have any reactions to that or a different take on it?
The only thing that I would say is that when you're collecting data, make sure that it's all funneling into one place. So if you're if you have a brick and mortar and you also have e-commerce, don't have two different data silos. Make sure that they're feeding into one source so that you can then target based on, whatever the data that you have. But don't treat your ecosystem separately, because that's not how your customer works. You have to always think from a marketing perspective. Think about the customer experience, and people shop online, people go into the store, and the experience really needs to be fluid for them.
Those are fabulous insights, and a lot of places still have their data siloed. So it's a really great tip that you bring up right now. Chris, what about you? Do you have any reactions?
Yeah, maybe just to double click, Dmitrii, on what you said. I think sometimes data gets a bad rap as being an otherness, or that's too complicated, or I'm not very good at math, or I just don't think it has to be that way. I think the first step is kind of understanding that you can put data at the center of everything you do by taking simple steps like, one, investing in your own data literacy, investing in the data literacy of your team. That doesn't take a lot of cash. They're free or near free resources online that help you understand how you can collect data, understand what rocks to look under in your own business where you might have data, how you interrogate data to understand the quality of it, how you make sense of it. These things are all really simple steps you could take today, don't cost a lot of money, and help you kind of put data at the center of your decision making. And then I think the next step here is to just always question any decisions you're making without data. Think, is there a way for data to help me enhance the way I'm thinking about this decision? Not that data is going to fundamentally compromise my sort of human cognition, but how can this sort of understand and accelerate some of the decisions I'm making? It can start very simply and then kind of take it up the learning curve from there.
Absolutely, that's great.
Absolutely, I'll agree with that 100%. 100%. Yeah.
You have to know what you're doing.
My grandma used to do it this way. That's why I'm doing it this way. Let's look at data, right? Let's look at data first.
Perfect. Yeah, so let's talk about now, we have the data, how do we use it to deepen relationships? And so beyond kind of just traditional KPIs, right? How can we use data to deepen that customer relationship? And Barbara, I'll go start with you on this. I know you're doing some really exciting stuff at Mobile High Five with this.
Yeah, so getting back to what I said earlier, where we try to break down those data silos. During the pandemic, a lot of brick and mortar stores opened e-commerce, offshoots, and now that people are returning to the stores, they've got this e-commerce store, and they're like, oh my God, what do I do with this? It's different. How do I get it out there? It's like a completely different business. And so what we offer is a product that connects the brick and mortar with the e-commerce store through customer engagement programs and loyalty programs. The experience is the same for the customer, so they can walk in, earn a reward online, walk into the store, that reward's waiting for them. And that's the way it should work. It shouldn't be two different systems. And because, as I said at the beginning, we are strictly focused on the mobile channel, all of that engagement comes via SMS text. So texts are read 98% within 5 minutes. So if you're sending a reward out, don't send it by email because over 80% won't even know they got one. So, make sure your loyalty program, if you're running one, is really based on text. That's the way to go today.
Perfect. And Chris, with you, like, how do you, use data again to deepen this relationship and make marketing and advertising feel more like a conversation as opposed to just a traditional ad?
Yeah. Hey, look, Dave, I love how you put that, right? We think about advertising a lot, and advertising kind of gets a bad name or a bad rep of being not relevant or being everywhere. But I think it doesn't have to be that way. If you do marketing and advertising correctly, and if you do it with data, it can be a conversation. You can actually insert a really relevant value proposition into your customer's life or your potential customer's life. And going back to what I was just talking about a moment ago, it doesn't have to be that hard. So we've built our entire business around massively multi-sourcing data from hundreds of providers, ingesting it, putting it into a technology system, and building audiences out of that. But you don't have to start that way. I mean, you can find partners. We're happy to help folks who want to do it that way, but you don't have to start that way. It can be very simple, taking a step back and understanding what's really relevant for customers at that stage of their life journey. And so here's an example of how I think data can be really powerful and really simple. So we know that about 75% of people who make major financial services decisions or purchases have just had a recent life event. And so if you can understand your consumers' life events, you can have a really relevant conversation about them. And different financial services products make sense for different life events. Life events data is potentially already available inside of your business. Maybe customers have told you if they're married, maybe customers have told you their birthday, maybe they've told you all sorts of things where you can infer life events. If you don't have it internally, you can go externally and purchase that data from partners like us. But once you start thinking about that, the marketing cascade becomes more of a conversation instead of an advertisement. So Dave, for example, I'm making it up, I don't really know this. Let's say you just got married. That's a really relevant time to start talking to you about a new checking account, a new savings account, a new money market account. Let's say a few years later, I know you've just had a child. Next thing we want to talk to you about is investments and insurance. A few years later, you've had a major wealth event. Notable's gone public. Everybody's crazy wealthy. We're going to have a conversation with you about investment management. Finally, you retire. And another marketing cascade. And that's really simple. Like, you don't have to have a lot of crazy analytics to make that happen. You just have to be interested in your customer, where they're at, put a couple of data points around that, and think about what would be a conversation at that point versus what is just a kind of their blast ad to the masses.
So,
Can I just interject one thing?
Absolutely.
So that's a really good point, and something that people overlook when it comes to data. At least from an SMS text perspective, we don't scrape data, we don't purchase data, none of that. We ask the customer for that data point. So as part of our opt-in process, we ask them to tell us their birthday. We ask them brand preferences. We ask them what kind of information they want to receive. All of those data points can be used now to personalize the outbound messaging to them. And the more personalized your outreach, the more engagement you're going to get and the higher conversions. So use the data that they provide you and think about them as individual customers, not as groups, if you will.
Barbara,
Yeah.
I love that. And I know we want to move on, but I just want to say really quickly, like, one of the biggest pitfalls we see amongst our clients, even the largest financial services companies, huge e-commerce, they'll say, like, I don't have any data on my customers. What are you talking about?
Awesome.
And we say, like, let's look at, like, do you have birthday? Do you have marital status? Do you have kids? Like,
yeah.
You know a lot about these folks if you just kind of think about it. I would challenge our listeners today, if they kind of looked at the data inside their company, I bet they have more than they think they have.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, a really good point is you're providing people sort of a roadmap of, how they should approach this data to use in their business, so that they can improve their customer journey. Dmitrii, do you have any other insights on this before we move on?
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple of things, and it it's building up on what Kristopher and Barbara said. One of the things that I always like to say about, especially in the world of advertising and marketing, we tend to put users in groups and kind of build user profiles and personas, but I believe that that's one of the worst things you can ever do. My point is, do not assume, okay, if a person just got married, we need to talk to them about checking and savings account. Really? Do they actually need to? So instead of assumptions about that stuff, what I always say is, gather as much information first by what typically is some sort of user profiling. Let's see what they like first. Let's see what type of content they read on your website. Let's see what kind of website they go to in general, and ask for as much data and information about them from them as possible. Because the reason the traditional advertising or interruptive advertising gets bad rep is because you get something that you have no interest in whatsoever. So to make it as personalized and as kind of catch the person in that right time at the right moment, you have to have almost like a base of information about that specific person, and not a persona which really supposed to describe a million people, and it just starts falling apart really quickly. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents there.
I think that's a really good point about personalizing things for people. And I think that leads really nicely into the next question that Dave has for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously to unlock, this potential and this power of the data, we need to talk about technology. And so one of the common questions here is build versus buy, and would love, for your insights here on what you found that's worked well and what you recommend. So Dmitrii, we'll start with you on this question. How do you recommend people get started finding the right technology stack for their data?
I think it's much easier than it might sound. I think just start doing something. We work with quite a few smaller businesses and smaller business owners, and they come to us and it's like, we never done this before, and I kind of don't know how to start. Like, do you have a piece of paper in front of you? So that could be your start. Just ask whenever you have a customer on the phone, we'll ask them about their preferences or date of birth, whatever it is. It could be very, very simple. And one of the things is that as you start, you're going to kind of understand more about the data points that are helping your business. That's one of the things that I also not always understand, when it's like, yeah, let's just get everything, let's get every kind of data, and we're just going to have it for the sake of having it. The first question that I always say to ask yourself is, how is it going to help you and your business? What actually matters to you? And allocate, 2 hours a month or 2 hours a week at actually spending time, sitting down and actually spending time on whatever data you have and starting to try to understand it. There's so many great tools that are free from in the world of online marketing, even like Google Analytics. It can give you something. When we talk to business owners and C-levels, even, you ask them simple questions of, hey, what is your lead to sale rate? And like, we never even thought about it. Like, how do you run business and how do you make decisions that are good for business if you don't know the basics? So record as much stuff as you can, but make sure it's tailored to your business, to what you are trying to get and how it affects your goals. And again, it's just as simple as starting somewhere.
Sure.
Piece of paper, Google Sheet, Excel, and then you can kind of upgrade to software and different types of kind of a bigger things.
Yeah. And I think, early on you brought up the idea of smaller and medium-sized business and trying to get them to get started. I know, Barbara, this is an area that you've worked extensively in. Do you have some thoughts about technology and what are the do's and don'ts?
Sure. So, I always suggest that people think of the end before they start, because if you don't know where you're going, you can't get there. So, we work with almost exclusively small business owners. And so just a couple of examples. We work with a beer store. We're up in Pennsylvania, so we have beer stores. And during the opt-in process, we ask them their information preferences, because we know this store has weekly tastings. They also have limited edition new releases on beers, and they have, your standard sales. So we ask the customer during the opt-in process to self-identify where their interests are. Once they do that, now we can send texts out about the weekly tastings to the people who are interested in it. You're going to get a better response if you send it to people who are actually interested in that. And, beer nerds, apparently there's a lot of them out there. So, we're going to send them the new releases. Same thing for, an apparel shop that deals with, people in all different sizes. So get them to self-identify if they're, a particular size range, so that if you have a trunk sale where the brand is specifically focused on larger sizes, you're going to want to send that, invitation to that trunk show to the people that it applies to. So asking for the data that you think you'll use it's really basic. And that's how you design your program. And you try to get that either during opt-in, or because we're doing this via text, we can ask for it sort of in a drip-like fashion. Because what we found is the more you ask for, the less you get. So you have to limit it to really no more than 3 questions, because you're just not going to get it. And if you can limit the amount of personal data that you're asking for instance, we only ask for first name because we want to be able to personalize our messages. So we don't ask for first and last name. When someone is on a little bit on the edge of uncomfortable giving out personal information, if you just ask for the first name, they'll give it to you because there's a million Susans out there, you know.
Pretty cool, Barbara. And on that concept of less is more, Chris, do you have any thoughts on technology? Like, what's the minimum that probably somebody needs to get started?
Yeah, hey, it's a great question. I would, you know, and maybe even to just kind of keep it short, I would say, I think there is a lot you can do yourself with technology you have today. So going back to the keeping it simple, starting with bite-sized chunks, I think you can do a lot with Excel. I mean, you can do a lot with Microsoft Access. There's a lot of stuff that you can do by yourself, and that's an important part of it. But I think the other part of it is understanding when it's the right time to consult an external partner. So understanding the right partner to help you advance your tech stack and take you up the learning curve can be a really wise investment. So don't try to go it alone unless you want to, or certainly exhaust the capabilities you have yourself, but don't be afraid to look for a partner who can help you take your data-driven strategies to the next level. They're out there. They don't have to be terribly expensive. But find someone who shares your vision and who can help get you there quickly.
That's great. And actually kind of helps lead right into one of the last questions here, because I think one of the themes that's come through a lot here is just trying to start, right? Trying to start somewhere and just getting going. But what advice or what kind of recommendations would you have for people that, you know, may not identify as a data analyst or a data science and may feel that that data is locked within a data team or some specific, you know, data-centric organization? How can they be more data-driven in their roles, and how do you recommend they start? And Chris, we'll start here with you on this one, if you don't mind.
Yeah, look, I have sort of like 5 rules to live by for kind of data-driven decision making. So, you know, the first is put data at the center of everything you do. If there looks like there's a place where data doesn't belong, really challenge that, really interrogate it, really make sure that it's not a decision that you can't enhance with data that is somewhere inside your organization. And those could be really simple data elements. Second, invest in data literacy. Invest in data literacy for yourself, invest in data literacy for your teams. Doesn't have to be crazy expensive. Reddit's got a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff on the web that's free or near free. Inventory and collect the data that's available to you. Just understanding, Barbara talked about it, Dmitrii talked about it, just understand what you have today. You probably have more than you think. Identify the gaps. After you do that inventory, you'll know where the gaps are. Understand where the gaps are in your data and your analytical capabilities, and don't be afraid to find a partner if that's appropriate at that time. And finally, and I think most importantly, we talk a lot about data-driven decision-making. Measure the outcome of your data-driven decision-making. Data decisions create more data. And if you are not understanding and measuring kind of the work that you're doing, you'll never know when you need to adjust your process of using data. And so measure, 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 measure.
I'd like to add something specifically for those in the brick and mortar space. Don't necessarily assume that your point of sale is your best place to get add-ons. Because oftentimes, you know, the point of sale companies are in the business of being point of sale companies. And when they add on peripheral kinds of technology, they're usually not the best. It's kind of like you can't be all things to all people. And so, you know, I find a lot of people shut the door to externally based SMS programs, for instance, such as what I provide, because oh, it comes with my point of sale. But the fact of the matter is, it's not as good. It doesn't do as much, and that's not what they are experts in. And often you have to run those programs yourselves, which means you have to be that expert, and you got a business to run. And so what ends up happening is you go at it gung-ho at the beginning, and then you don't stay with it. And with any marketing, consistency is key. And so you can't just do it when you have time. And that's why, you know, outsourcing that kind of function, and, you know, that part of your tech stack is really to your benefit.
I think that's fascinating, Barbara. And I really like the, tailoring things to what your business needs is versus what the easy solution might be, which is just to take what you get out of the box with the point of sale. Dmitrii, what tips do you have for folks?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty easy one. I say just be curious, because you don't know what you might not know. And just having simple conversations, if you're in a bigger company, larger company, you might have team members in other departments, just have over coffee, over lunch or something, like, hey, talk to me about data stuff. And kind of, sometimes you might not even think about metrics that might be important to you because nobody even brought it up. And you kind of just, especially when you're very busy, you kind of have this, a lot of things that you need to do, and having your head down and buried in whatever paperwork, and you just very difficult to pull yourself kind of outside of your own scope. So if you're in a bigger company, ask people who are working for the same company. If you are in a small company, then maybe get like a consultant or some kind of partner, or as simple as just self-educate. Go on the Reddits of the world, or blogs, whatever, YouTube, whatever else, and just Google something like the top 5 data points in certain industry business owner should know, or something like that, or this industry marketing director should know, and things of that nature. And just be curious and just start somewhere. That's my simple advice there.
This has been a great conversation with a lot of chock full of information and tips and things that I want to read more about. Maybe in the final moments that we have, each of you could maybe leave us with one thought and how folks can get in contact with you if they want to learn more about what you do. Let's start with Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. I thank you. Thanks for hosting today to the Notable crew. Start small. Doesn't have to be scary. Invest in data literacy. Understand the data you have available. Put it at the center of everything you do. If you want to follow more, follow me on LinkedIn, Kristopher Lazaretti, Kristopher with a K, Lazaretti, 2 Z's, 2 T's, and Deluxe.com, FMCGdirect.com.
Dmitrii.
Yep. If you'd like to reach out to me, I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn. My username is Digital Spaceman. We are in Houston. We are in a digital world. I guess people can't see this podcast, but folks on the call see my background. NASA, space, exploration, curiosity. So yeah, at Digital Spaceman on pretty much all social medias of the world.
Awesome.
And Barbara.
So my closing thought is to make sure that you own your data. When you spend all your time and investment in getting followers on Instagram and likes on Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg owns that data. And honestly, I think he's one cyber attack away from being taken down, because who wouldn't want that prize, right? And once he's taken down, or if there's some other reason that you lose your account, it's not like he's going to send you the list. So really important that you build your own database, and that's really what we do. We build databases that you own, and you control when the reach out is, not Mark Zuckerberg and his algorithms. You decide, and that is super powerful. So anyway, happy to talk to anyone anytime. You can reach me at mobilehigh5.com, and that is a number 5 on that, MOBILEHIGH, number 5.com. Or you can get me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/Barbara Casey. So happy to talk to anyone anytime.
Again, thank you, Barbara, Dmitrii, and Chris. On behalf of Dave and I, we are really happy that you've been able to share such rich content about data and the customer journey. For those of us that joined us today, please, thank you for being here, and we hope you'll join us at the next Notable webinar episode, which covers driving the data-driven enterprise. And look in your inboxes and online for more information about this webinar series. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here and sharing your time with us today.
Thank you.
Everyone.